In this video, I want to go over a feature of Excel called tables. Now, a table in Excel often gets confused with a range in Excel. A lot of times in previous learning activities, the data that is presented actually does look like a quote-unquote table. But tables are something specific to Excel that actually gives you some more options that you can easily format data, you can add new data, filter and sort data within a quote-unquote table. So you'll definitely understand what I'm talking about as we go through this learning activity. So um, essentially, tables make it very easy to do those things I just talked about, and it also provides a lot of power when we're creating formulas or we're creating charts that reference tables, because those formulas and or the charts basically automatically adjust to account for new data that might be entered. So if we have a range of data and let's say we implement some sort of formula where it's a specific range and we want to add data to it, oftentimes we have to go back into our formula and change the range in which the formula actually references to include that new data. Well, tables actually solves a little bit of that problem. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about the task at hand in this learning activity. So the scenario is basically that we have a data set that is listing the number of new vehicles sold per month in the United States for a number of years. The objective of this learning activity is that I will introduce you to tables, of course. We're going to create a table of the raw data that's presented in the starting file. We're going to update the table by adding new values for 2012. What we actually will see when we open the file is we have all the monthly values starting at 2004 to 2011, and on the next slide, and I've actually made this available in the Excel file, the new data for 2012, just to make it a little easier versus manually entering all that information. However, once we do that, we're going to create a little summary of the data in another table to demonstrate the power of what I'm suggesting, that it automatically resizes the formulas, if you will, and or charts. So we're going to end up creating a table to calculate the total sales volume per year using some ifs, and then we will actually create an XY scatter to visualize the new values on our second table. So let's go ahead and open up the starting file. But I guess before I do, let me just show you the data on the slide if you wanted to jot these down. But again, I wanted to avoid manually entering all this data, which is a little tedious, so I actually have provided that in the spreadsheet, but we will be adding this data at some point. Okay, when we open up the file, we see that the data set is month, day, year, and the number of new vehicles sold. Of course, we could create a table with a lot more columns than this and a lot more rows and things like that. What I was referring to before is most people, and even I'm guilty of, calling ranges tables. Just I use the word interchangeably almost, but like I said, tables are specific to Excel and gives us a lot more power. So we do have this range here of data, which goes down all the way to 2011 in row 97. If you look at one tab over, I do have the new information here, just to avoid typing in all these values manually later to demonstrate that power. So what we need to do to create a table is go to the Insert. And right here in the ribbon we have a table. So let's go ahead and actually hit this. It's going to ask the range of our table, and usually it does a great job at guessing the range, and by default it's going to say that your data has headers. So let's go ahead and hit OK here. We can see that if I click off the focus here, if we look at the now table, we see that it's implemented a formatting strategy for us. The default is this blue header with white bold text, and then alternating blue, lighter blue, and white rows. Okay, if we do want to change that, we can go to Table Tools, the Design, and we can actually explore a wide variety of colors that we might want our table in. Okay, I'm going to just choose a plain Jane black and white strategy here. So we can very easily change that. Actually, to get into this a little bit more in depth, we actually can control some of the styles here too. You're seeing this black fill for the header. I can actually take that off if I wanted. The text is actually white here, but I just wanted to show that you can actually add things like the banded rows. That's what we're getting, the alternating gray and white. We can actually format the first column with that bold if we wanted to, or the last column. We could also have banded columns, so we could actually play with these options. I think the banded columns is not a good idea, but I'm going to go ahead and bold the last column and have our banded rows. The table's name is actually a default name here, Table 1. We could actually edit that name if we really wanted to. Maybe we could call it New Vehicle Sales Table or something like that. But for this example, I'm just going to leave it as Table 1. Okay, the other thing that we see in this table, which makes it very easily identifiable, are these filter, if you will, arrows. So we have some options here. If we wanted to sort perhaps this column from largest to smallest, or sort by color, we have all those options that we would expect here. We have the number filters here that we have covered. We have searches. We can control what's visible or not with these check marks as well. So just everything that you would expect with a filter, we do have those options. I'm going to format this column with a comma style, and I'm going to put in, or take away I should say, the decimal places. I think this looks okay. So this is a table. We can actually utilize this table to enter more data. For example, if we come down here, you'll kind of see the border of the table with this blue kind of icon here that defines the table. If I was to manually type in a value here in row 98, let's say we're up to month 12, so we're going to start over again. Enter. Once I hit enter, it's going to automatically resize the size of this table. So I'm going to hit enter, and we can see that banded row there. The day is always the first of the month, and we have 2012. And the new information I was referring to, we could actually look over here. I'm just going to type in just 0 for now, or maybe how about 1? We'll update that in a second. So we could add another row just as easy. We could go down here and say month 2 now, month 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth, all the way to 12. Okay, I could pull these values down in the table. Normally, we'd expect if I did this fill down feature, I'm actually filling down the gray cells, and sometimes we'd expect actually in ranges that if we filled this down, we would fill the gray format, but it's smart enough to know that we wanted those banded rows, so it's actually keeping that formatting. We could have actually written a formula here for +1 in the cell above and bring this formula down to make that typing a little easier. Again, I'm going to update these values, but I sort of want to demonstrate the power of this when we start to create our summaries. If you ever want to delete rows in your table, we can simply do it in a similar fashion that you would normally. Highlight any of the rows you want to delete, and simply go to delete. If for whatever reason you no longer want this as a table and you want it back to a range, meaning you don't have these properties of a table, we can actually right click on anywhere inside the table and go to the table option here, and we can show row totals and actually convert this to a range. Okay, but before I do that, let me kind of show you some of the power. Okay, so let's create a table, and I'm just going to simply create a new table from scratch. So I want year, and I want, I'm just going to reference this column header here. And we can see actually when we reference this column header, it's in a much different style than we're used to seeing. You might have expected if I hit equals and hit this reference D1 that we would have seen just that, equals D1. But here it has a different referencing strategy when we actually call this a table. So we have the table name. Again, I left it as default table 1. Then from the headers of that table, comma, we are looking at the number of new vehicle sales in the US. Okay, so that's a little different than before. If we wanted to create this table from scratch, after we've provided some column headings, we could go back to Insert Table. And right now, I'm just going to select My Table Has Headers and hit OK. Okay, so it's going to apply that same format as we have before, just the black and gray and white format. As far as year, I'm going to start my summary from 2004, hit enter. Here is where the table will expand. So if I type 2005, the table is growing larger. 2006, enter. Let's say we wanted to actually write a formula of +1. We can do that. We can fill this formula down if we wanted to. But I'm going to hit undo a couple times, and I want to make sure my table is defined correctly. So I'm just going to manually type up until 2011. Oops. 2009, 2010, 2011, and so forth. And actually, when I wrote the formula, it kind of changed what it expected. So we have to actually manually drag this down, and now it's going to define the table correctly. So if you're in a normal setting where you're just manually entering number like this without a formula, it should be fine. But it gets a little confused if you start implementing formulas around a table. So I would caution you of that. We do have all of our values for year. I'm going to go ahead and summarize this. So just like we saw here with the reference previously, the referencing strategy is going to be a little different. So take note of that. I'm going to summarize this with some ifs. The sum range will be the individual values of the car sales. So let's reference this range. If I go back to the formula, we'll see that that range is actually not D2 through D, I think it was 97 or so. It's actually the table and then the header name. So we have that difference there. That's the sum range. The criteria range will be year. So I'm going to reference that, put a comma. And the criteria will be our 2004 reference. So you can see there's quite a bit difference in the referencing strategy. We don't see any of the A1 style formatting that we're used to. We see the entire column as a sort of like a named range. We have the table and then the column here of year. And then we have this reference, which is actually the @ sign, which is referencing something in a relative fashion in our table. Okay, so let's hit enter. And you'll notice as soon as I hit enter, it filled that formula down through the entire table, which is also a nice feature. So let me undo that and go back into the formula editing bar and show you that again. I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to fill that formula automatically down to the end of the table, which is pretty nice. I'm going to use the same formatting strategy here of the comma style without the decimal places. And now I want to enter that new data. If we wanted to keep this similar, I guess we can bold this column here. Let's go to design, and if we wanted to bold that last column, we can do that here. We could all change the colors and anything like that after we've created the table. It does give you a little preview here based on your table style options, so you can explore that on your own if you'd like. Okay, so let's graph this data. This is going to be XY scatter. I want my X to be year and my Y to be the vehicle totals. So to quickly create this, we just highlight the table here, insert, scatter, and I've got that figure here. Whoops, I hit the wrong button on accident, which changed the range. So let me just do that again to show you. Let's select the entire table, insert, scatter, and I'm just going to choose the first one and move this out of the way here so it's not blocking up any of the table information. If we wanted to format this, of course we could change maybe the marker styles to a fill black, and the line color is a solid black. You know, we can do any type of formatting to that chart that we like. How about something like this? Reference the axis labels here. I'm just going to reference the table. Whoops, that's not year. Let's reference the right one. Number of vehicles sold. And the X is year. Okay, I'm just going to put the legend at the very bottom. I'm going to go to Layout, Legend, Show at the bottom here. So I think that looks good enough. Okay, so now comes the part where I want you to insert that data and actually show you that it's quite powerful when dealing with formulas like what we have here and graphs. So I'm going to go down here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and type 1 through 12 like before. And I forgot 10. Oops. So we have clearly defined our table. It's growing as we type. And then I'm going to come to new data, and I'm just going to copy this range from day to the new vehicle cells. Control C, and then I'm just going to paste this here. Doesn't look like it brought over the format, which I did not expect, so I'm just going to use the format painter here and paint that format here. Okay, so here is the neat part, that it auto sized this table for us, and if we simply went here to enter a new value, because we entered the 2012 value but it's not in our table here yet, I can hit 2012 here, hit enter. That formula is going to come down automatically and the chart is going to update. So now we have that value of 2012. So now you know, we have all the filtering options as we did with the other table. Now to show you, if you wanted to take away the table properties, what we can actually do is right click and go to table and convert this back to a range. Okay, so this is asking us, do we want to convert that table to a normal range? Yes. Okay, so it took away the options here for the filter. This is just now a range. We could do the same thing here convert to a range. And now these are both ranges as we're used to. And if I even look at the formula parameters, it goes back to the A1 style referencing. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that in case you ever do create a table and then realize, well, maybe it's better if I don't have a table. That's how you do it. I'm going to actually undo this step until I have both of my tables back and to finalize this learning activity.